They say that before you judge someone, you should walk a mile in their shoes. Then, when you do judge them, you're a mile away, and you have their shoes. The perfect crime. The same is true for video game bosses. Can we really say they're evil without having tried on their shoes? I mean, yes, obviously because of all the evil stuff they do, but we still want to try on their shoes because look how stylish they are. Thankfully, there are several video games that allow you to take their big bad boss for a playable spin. Here are 7 times we took them up on that offer. Enjoy, and beware spoilers ahead for the following games.
Lord Vader, we were ambushed upon arrival, but I have the situation well in...
I have no interest in your failures, Commander. I am here on a mission of my own.
If you slung the disc for The Force Unleashed into your Xbox 360 before you checked the box art, you might have been surprised and delighted to think you were playing the Darth Vader Rampage sim we've all been waiting for. The game started with you playing as DV himself, hunting for a lone Jedi on Kashyyyk, going absolutely ham on Wookiees with your lightsaber, and occasionally using your mighty force powers to launch your own stormtroopers into orbit. Make this game, EA, you cowards. Then it transpires the whole first level is just a sneaky prologue, and you're actually here to meet the infant version of the real game protagonist who is, it turns out, right there on the box art if only you'd looked. Oh man. Your brief taste of the unstoppable Darth Vader experience was just the setup for Vader adopting this sad orphan, who he orphaned.
A son.
Run!
That tees up the rest of the game, in which the sad orphan has become the secret apprentice of Darth Vader, who Vader codenamed Starkiller after rejecting alternative names Moon Smasher and Space Assassin for being too subtle.
Rise, my apprentice.
Over the next several hours, you work through Starkiller's gradual realisation that maybe being a Sith intern isn't for him after all. Finally, you arrive at a climactic final boss fight with your wheezy mentor. And then, if you're playing like us, you fully commit to derailing the entire Star Wars canon by killing Darth Vader a few years before he could meet Luke Skywalker and tell him he was his dad. You think that's bad for continuity? You should see the Force Unleashed 2 DLC where you kill Han Solo. In fact, here it is.
Now, if you'll just sign for your son's body, you can take him home.
No! This isn't my son! This thing's a monster, a murderer!
Yes, well, I suppose that runs in the family.
Ah, Silent Hill 2. One of the finest horror games ever made thanks to its deeply unsettling atmosphere, frank handling of themes of loss and guilt, and of course the iconic pursuer villain, Pyramid Head, rightfully acknowledged as one of the greatest video game boogeymen of all time. Oh, okay, apparently we're talking about Silent Hill Downpour, not Silent Hill 2. How was that one? Oh. Well, while it might not be the best game in the series, Silent Hill Downpour is still a Silent Hill game and tells the story of Murphy Pendleton.
Prisoner secure. Open 302B. Transfer.
Pendleton is a convict who escapes a prison transport crash into the town of Silent Hill, which, as is probably explicitly stated in its tourist information pamphlets by now, starts to mould itself to his troubled psyche. The game even features a relentless pursuer boogeyman character of its own called, the Boogeyman. But he's different, see, because instead of a pyramid for a head, he has a gas mask, and instead of a big knife, he has a big hammer. Look, you come up with something better. The point is, the Boogeyman is a formidable presence throughout Silent Hill Downpour and, like Pyramid Head before him, represents a facet of the protagonist which plays into the game's finale. First, you must face the game's penultimate boss, known as the Wheelman, a kind of giant emaciated horror corpse melded with life support machines. And then you are presented with Silent Hill Downpour's true final boss, the Boogeyman.
Stay back, damn it!
But there's a twist. The boogeyman is now being controlled by you as you pursue Anne, a woman who has been hounding Pendleton throughout the game, convinced that he is responsible for her father's death.
Why won't you die?
So you have to monster your way through this prison, fighting off waves of grunts and absorbing gunfire from Anne, roaring incoherently the whole time like an on-fire bear. While it is fun to smash up a bunch of stuff with a big hammer, how you choose to act in this finale determines the game's ending, with the bad endings being linked to killing Anne and the good ones coming from sparing her. Or if you prefer, you can go for the surprise ending, where Pendleton tunnels out of prison and then everyone throws him a surprise party. Hey, at least this one's got Pyramid Head in it.
Bowser and Mario have fought countless times over the years and it never ends well, whether that's because Bowser insists on standing on a retractable bridge no matter how many times he falls into lava, or because Bowser keeps throwing his enemies the only things that can damage him, no matter how many times Mario then launches them into his Bowser face. Bowser's kinda dumb, is what I'm saying. That's as true as ever in the most recent Mario game, Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch, in which Mario has the incredible new power of being able to possess living things with the use of a sentient magic hat.
Come on.
Nintendo tells us that Mario's hosts are fine afterwards, but look at that frog. Its mind is shattered. Anyway, in Mario Odyssey, Bowser is back on his BS, which here stands for Bowser stuff, and more specifically means kidnapping Princess Peach and trying to force her to marry him.
Peach.
Mario turns up to stop things, which is good, I guess, although he does it wearing a wedding suit of his own, which, I mean, that's pretty presumptuous, Mario. And I think that ring is a bit big for her, Bowser. And why are all these people just standing around watching this happen? Mayor Pauline? Honestly, this whole thing is a disaster. Once again, Bowser gives you the very thing you need to defeat him, a top hat equipped with punching arms, but more significantly, that leaves Bowser with a bare head. And you know what happens to things with bare heads around here? Show him, Mario. In order to help him and Peach escape the collapsing building, Mario possesses Bowser and we get to take a journey through the subconscious of this terrible lizard. A dismal tour through a sunken place of past failures and humiliations at the hands of Mario.
Hey, Mario?
It's then that we actually get to take control of Bowser, now sporting a fetching new moustache and a full range of extremely impressive moves, including the ability to smash through solid rock with his powerful claws. And breathe deadly fire. Now that we've been in control of Bowser, I've got to ask, how have you not killed Mario yet, my dude? You're literally shattering concrete blocks with your bare hands. Why are you bothering with the weird helicopters and punching hats? Punch him with your actual hands! Still, maybe this experience taught Bowser something and he'll finally learn to... Nope. Oh well, at least we know that Mario... Oh... Okay, does this game even have a hero? Oh, it's Peach, of course.
Snake, your blood will be the first to be spilled by this glorious new weapon. Consider it an honor, a gift from your brother.
Technically, the final boss of Metal Gear Solid is Liquid Snake, a whiny British-accented Snake clone with a mullet and a super punchable face, despite not being high-res enough to have any discernible features.
That's right. I'm just the leftovers of what they used to make you. Can you understand what it's like to know that you're garbage since the day you were born?
In our opinion, however, the true final boss of Metal Gear Solid is Metal Gear Rex, the railgun-equipped, nuke-launching mobile battle platform that Liquid Snake uses to beat the hell out of you during the game's final encounter.
How do I stop it?
Despite obviously being a terrifying weapon of mass destruction that could theoretically end all life on Earth as we know it, Metal Gear Rex is also totally badass, so you can imagine our disappointment when it was only Liquid who got to pilot Rex in the game. He isn't appreciating it properly. He's probably in there drinking tea and getting biscuit crumbs everywhere. All that changed, however, in Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, where you, as Old Snake, finally get to take charge of Metal Gear Rex after Otacon manages to bring it back online for you at the end of the game.
I've made Rex's control panel. Check it out before you get started.
Too late, Otacon, you nerd. Let's Rex stuff up. As predicted when we fought against it in Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Rex is awesome, armed with anti-tank missiles, a Gatling gun, and the ability to just barrel through things, smashing them to pieces. Rex is so awesome, in fact, that one of the final bosses of this game is Metal Gear Ray, a mech specifically designed to destroy Metal Gear Rex, being piloted by Ocelot, only actually it's Liquid Snake again, because he has possessed Ocelot, and look, it's Metal Gear, just go with it. Ray is a formidable foe, but oh Rex has a laser as well? Sick! Anyway, long story short, you managed to beat the mech designed specifically to destroy the mech you're in because, and I hope you're paying attention, Liquid, this is how you do it properly.
Snake!
Liquid? You're not looking! Ugh, this is why Liquid is the worst.
Liquid!
Weakened by the One Ring's power, at last Frodo claims it for himself, and the very foundations of Middle-earth are shaken. The Dark Lord desperately hopes for his very body to be restored to him.
Lord of the Rings Conquest is a game of two halves, much like football, or Monopoly, when I lose at Monopoly and rip the board in half. The first half of Lord of the Rings Conquest is a campaign in which you play as the good guys, more or less reliving the events of the Lord of the Rings films, but with Gandalf doing way more Force lightning.
Do not weaken now! We must survive this night!
The second half of Lord of the Rings Conquest is like Tolkien fanfiction written by an emo Sauron stan who always wanted to see Gimli get owned by a Balrog. That is to say, you play this campaign as the bad guys, in an alternate universe where Frodo has mucked up his mission to destroy the One Ring,
The Ring of Power.
and the forces of evil are going hog wild, ransacking the elvish libraries of Rivendell,
Let's go on, my elf history, you maggots.
and smashing Faramir to bits in the ruins of Osgiliath. Mostly you play as a rank-and-file soldier from a selection of classes, but occasionally you do get to play a more memorable character, like a Witch King or a This Guy. All that's needed to complete this grim power trip is a shot at playing as the Dark Lord himself. That's right, it's the big man, the Ring Wrangler, the fantasy Darth Vader, aka Sauron.
Perhaps at last the Dark Lord himself shall come forth to gloat in his triumph.
It's here in the later chapters of the Rise of Sauron campaign where you finally get to hot swap out your generic foot soldier and step into Sauron's armoured boots.
He's tough, but he will fall to the blade like the rest.
We can all agree Sauron is the final boss of all Tolkien fiction, being the most powerful evil entity in Middle-earth. Unless we're going to get into the Silmarillion, which we won't, because we can also all agree life is too short. Sauron is actually not the most enjoyable hero character in Lord of the Rings Conquest on account of being strong but slow, like a big spiky Frankenstein. But if you do fancy smashing Legolas flat with a giant mace, the game's got you covered. And if you came here primarily to bash old man Gandalf to bits in the burning wreckage of the Shire, well, you too will not go away disappointed. Looks like we're going to have to start calling him the Wizard of Woz, because he's dead now.
Mr. Weaversbrook, I know you have more of the Ripper's letters.
I told you to stay away from me.
Stop publishing his letters. You've turned an unknown miscreant into a legend, and that's exactly what he wants.
In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the Fry twins, Jacob and Evie, encountered their fair share of notable historical figures from the Victorian era, hanging out with Karl Marx, messing up Dickens's manuscripts, and of course, murdering Charles Darwin's scientific rivals.
You're
choice, imposter! Now to take this fossil to Darwin.
Anyone else got a problem with the theory of natural selection? Yeah, that's what I thought. This parade of notable Victorians led to many wondering if we'd see an appearance from one of the most notable Victorian figures, the serial killer Jack the Ripper, in the game. After all, it's a game about stabbing people in Victorian London, and that was kind of his whole deal. Maybe the Fry twins could even be the ones who put a stop to his murderous rampage.
Patience, Evie.
The gentle sound of opportunity passing us by.
The only problem was that Assassin's Creed Syndicate was set 20 years earlier than the Ripper murders, which kind of shot that whole idea down. I mean, yes, it's a game about sci-fi memory machines featuring magic aliens, but we've got to draw a line of time travel, guys, come on.
Piece of Eden detonated and took the lab with it.
The magic lump of hyperbolic metal. I'm shocked.
All that changed, however, with the addition of the Jack the Ripper DLC, which revisited the twins 20 years after the events of Syndicate in a story that begins with Jacob being attacked by the Ripper and follows Evie's attempts to track him down.
You think Jacob is dead?
I dare not believe it. But if he is, you may be the only person who can stop the Ripper now.
This all culminates in a final boss battle underneath Lambeth Asylum, where Evie has to use the Ripper's own tactics against him before finally defeating him, screaming that he won't make her a monster, while she stabs him over and over again.
You will not make a monster of me!
Which is cool. What is considerably weirder, however, is that prior to this point, the DLC has forced you to play as the Ripper several times.
Now, I will hunt you down.
The Ripper, here depicted as a kind of 19th century Rorschach from Watchmen, uses fear, we're told, as one of his main tools, which translates to you almost immediately being asked to brutally stab someone to death in a crowd in front of dozens of horrified witnesses. Eventually. This thing really goes on for a while. There we go. We also learn that Jack the Ripper would spike people to the floor and use his powerful lungs to unleash a fear scream. Which, I mean, where were you when this was happening? People who get mad about the historical accuracy of diversity in Battlefield games. The point of these Ripper sections is to give us an insight into the Ripper's mind and show how similar the techniques used by him and Evie are, but that still doesn't make it any less weird that the game is encouraging you to stamp around Whitechapel, brutalizing civilians with a bag on your head. It's nice that he put the top hat on top of the bag, though. I guess dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Jack, you're sick.
For your arrogance.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 pits the toughest fighters from a load of Capcom fighting games against the combined forces of Marvel's strongest and bravest superheroes. Also Hawkeye's there.
Take it up with Fury if S.H.I.E.L.D. rejected your application, not me.
In the main story of the game's arcade mode, the final boss is Galactus, a cosmic entity who literally eats planets and who has decided he's having Earth for supper.
You are not unlike an ant fighting the sun.
This is hands down one of the most intimidating boss fights in fighting game history, even with you controlling a team of 3 heroes with superpowers, especially if one of them is Hawkeye and those superpowers are being good at archery.
Much like the Fantastic Four, you are nothing to me.
World's greatest marksman, at your service.
I swear to God, Hawkeye. The fight takes place in space, with Galactus filling half the screen, and your instruction on starting is to save the Earth, so no pressure then. While it obviously is possible to beat Galactus, it certainly doesn't feel like it as you bonk harmlessly against his chest plate while he looks extremely not bothered. Sometimes he'll get annoyed and flick you with his finger like he's dismissing a pesky fly. Which is embarrassing, but certainly better than the punches, or actual death lasers. Lose to him and you get this charming cutscene in which he smashes the planet flat, and then eats both the Marvel and Capcom worlds because, oh yeah, there are actually 2 worlds at stake here, so you can double that death toll you're responsible for, Hawkeye. The good news is that while Galactus is a cosmically powerful intergalactic being, you can enjoy that power for yourself in the updated re-release version of the game, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. That version of the game added a new offline single-player mode called Galactus Mode, in which you get to don the big weird helmet of the purple Planet Eater and see exactly what it feels like to squash Iron Man flat with the palm of your hand.
Submit.
Amazing!
Or pick up Captain America and smoosh him between your gigantic palms.
You will know pain. Suffer for your arrogance.
Good, it turns out. Can see why people get into this supervillainy business.
You cannot hide.
Yeah, okay, Hawkeye.
Thanks so much for watching this video about the final bosses that you got to play as in video games. If you've got any other suggestions, please do put them in the comments below. And if you want more like this from Outside Xbox, then why not watch this video on screen right now, which is about the weirdest ways that you leveled up in video games. Or if you want something completely different, why not check out Outside Extra, one of their live streams. On this one, they were doing Animal Crossing personality quizzes to see which villagers they are. So check that out as well. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.